You're watching Everybody's Business. The big question we're asking tonight, can we have a budget of dharma? Can we have a budget that brings accountability? We're speaking, of course, to Yamini Aiyar and Gurcharan Das. In the new budget, if it's going to be a definitive 21st century new decade budget, how must it be different in accountability terms?
Well, you know, this is something that's been discussed again and again, and I don't think that we don't have to go over old territory. The very simple things are that you make it outcome oriented. Once you make what many years ago Chidambaram said, let's do that. And so let's put some teeth into the budget. Now, if you're going to put money in Narega, you then have, if the panchayat or whoever has not put the information on the in public as to who has received the money, you don't get the next part of the money. You just say no. I mean, that's the hard kind of things that people who believe in accountability.
But let me ask you another question, Gurcharan Das. Why? You've seen the system work for so many years. Why are we as a nation, as a government, why are we so bad at bringing accountability? Is it a psychic problem? Is it a mental problem? What is it?
No, I think it's very simply a question of vested interests.
Yeah.
You know, the teachers' unions will not allow the private schools to have a place in the sun. Teachers' unions will not allow para-teachers to be hired. It is a combination, and those teachers' unions capture the intellectuals on the left who are very vocal. So the whole education establishment of the country really is hijacked as a result, and so it's really vested interest. I mean, this is, sad to say, democracy at its worst. I mean,
democracy at its worst. Yamini Aiyar?
Well, democracy can also yield positive results, and there are interesting experiments happening. The challenge for us is to see how we can harness those experiments and spread them around. Yeah. So let's go back to NREJ since we started with that. And as I mentioned, the social audit process in Andhra Pradesh, it's actually quite fantastic. You have the government itself for the first time choosing to audit its own works and making information available. They have an end-to-end management information system from which you can collect information and then go out to work sites to actually ask questions. It's a truly amazing thing, and what we need to be able to do is to put the right pressure points on other state governments to do similar things. And a lot of that really comes from people's pressure. So we really, what we need really is a movement, and it's a movement that will have to come from people, because as
more shows like
says,
this.
Yeah, well, more shows like this.
But also, I think also, I mean, in other countries, both in the East and the West, school teachers do show up. You don't need social audits.
That's right.
I mean, the teacher shows up for very simple reasons that the system works. If you don't go to work, you are fired, or you lose pay, or whatever. And similarly, all this raises the dharma of the society.
The system, yeah.
The teacher then then begins to say that, my God, it does matter if I teach. And then you get a certain sense of inspiration that if others are teaching, you also behave in a certain way. So ultimately, it's a combination of institutional reform, which then leads you to a kind of...
But the only question is, given the vested interests in the institutions, the political economy issues that we've discussed, how does one ensure that the institution opens up and gets ready to reform? And there, I think, we can't get away from I mean, we are a democracy, and I think that's going to be, that is going to be where we will find our solutions. People's pressure will force the system to begin functioning better.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, because maybe when the middle class becomes 50%, is more vocal, our politics will change. Right now, the politicians, I mean, a lot of the people who are responsible for this state, for the vested interests we talk about, are the politicians themselves.
Tell me, both of you
hire those kind of teachers.
I wanted to ask you, are you hopeful that the RTI will ensure or keep its teeth, or already we are hearing noise after noise that, curb it here, squeeze it a little bit, tamper with it? Are you afraid that it'll go
Actually,
on
RTI is interesting. It is sad that the very same constellation of powers that brought the law in, and everybody agrees that it's a very powerful and important law, is now trying to take its teeth away. But because the law came, in some senses, from a people's movement, and it caught the imagination of the country, it's not so easy for the government to change its mind. They're definitely making noises.
Yeah.
Note that the noises have taken a good 6 or 7 months for the, for any real movement to happen. So I think if you're able to keep the pressure points, and civil society does have an important role to play here, it just makes it that much harder. It's not the solution, but it makes it harder. And I hope that they're able to ensure that RTI doesn't lose its teeth. They did it with file notings.
Final word. We have 30 seconds left. Final word, Gurcharan Das. How do we ensure that it's a budget of dharma?
Well, by measuring outcomes. Let's make very clear with every budget, with every item, that this is the outcome that we desire.
That's right.
It need not be a very ambitious outcome.
Yeah.
It can even be a very modest outcome. But let's begin with some outcome. And once you get that outcome, then the mindset changes, that my money is for a particular purpose.
All right.
We should have a show like this on outcomes budgets.
That's right, and we indeed shall, on Everybody's Business. Thanks very much, Gurcharan Das, Yamini Aiyar. Thanks very much for joining us. Fred, that's all the time that we have at the moment today on Everybody's Business.